about to go down.
JD Domino, DJ Chronicles. I said it right, Bob. By the way, we're graced with Mr. Bob Marsdale, the legend himself. Yeah, exactly. Hey, when I was starting out,
legend, bro.
You were the big guy. I was the little guy. Now I'm the big guy, literally. But anyway, I'm glad you decided to join, and now we'll get to learn all about you. First question, why? Why'd you want to be a DJ first? We'll get into everything else later, but DJ first. Why?
I'll tell you what, when I was a little kid, I used to listen to WABC in New York. And there was a guy by the name of Dan Ingram. And I just loved his voice. I mean, I actually can do his voice. It's like Dan Ingram and Ingramettes on WABC, 77 WABC. And I would just listen to his cadence. I had to talk up a song for the Post, listening to him. And, I always be a DJ. And when I went to college, they had a college radio station. And I've just always had like a gift. I could do like a lot of dialects and impersonate people and stuff. Being a DJ, like it is my natural voice, but you gotta hype yourself up a little bit. I kind of had this DJ persona, and I went in and I auditioned for the college radio station. And the guy that ran the station had his radio background, and he's like, he basically like, you're a natural. Like really made me feel good because I was crapping my pants, But and they put me on the air. So and then we kind of, I don't know if I'm going on a little bit too long for you, but
no, go ahead.
So they put on the air, and then the real mobile DJ back then. So this was, I was in college. I started in the fall of I graduated high school 79, started in the fall 79, and went to Fairleigh Dickinson. And then I wound up hosting a lot of events at the college, and that's kind of how I got my MC skills up. But then we always had bands, and being right outside of New York City, a lot of like Tom Rundgren played there. I mean, Richie Blackmore, I remember, was hanging out one night, like looking at. There's like big time bands because we were right from the city, so guys would come and kind of work out a little bit.
Right.
Average White Band was there. I remember at one time. David Johansen, like all these different guys. But then one night we had, one of the bands that was supposed to play was a storm, and they're like, hey, we have entertainment. So me and my roommate, we basically took everything out of the radio station and doctored it up, and basically had two turntables, I don't even know what kind of mixer it was. It was like a band mixer. But we wound up playing vinyl, and that was my first mobile job. It was like we did a promote, like it was like Heineken to the people from over there, and they're like, oh my God, and we threw it together, and I did that, and then that's how I got started. And the why is that I just kind of love music. I kind of have a photographic memory for music from the time I was a little kid, so it just was like became very natural to me. So
I'm the opposite.
Is that long enough for you?
Hey, you get to know you. Get to know what got you there. Me, I didn't like music. I ended up
really.
I wasn't a Zeppelin fan. I was more of a disco boy, but I didn't really get into it.
Right.
And we do have something in common because I started out with college radio. I was at Mercer County.
Right.
And that was my problem. I stood at the radio station more than in the classroom, and I didn't even have a point for my GPA. But we grouped, and I got into, I don't know if you remember Bill Singer. He was the voice of Trenton back then. They had their own school, a broadcast.
Okay.
And that's how I went over there. I was never on the air. I love production. So I was always on the other side. And it was funny because now I'm doing things I wouldn't do before back in the day, because I would always be on the other side of the microphone. I love. Did you continue with, did you like doing the clubs better or doing the mobile, doing the parties, the weddings?
Well, what happened when I was younger, I was fortunate to work in a lot of big clubs. Um, but I worked for a company, it was kind of like the pros, but they're out of Bristol. So what happened was I went out one night. There's a chain they were called H.A. Winston's, probably before your time. But think
Okay.
of like an Applebee's from the 80s, just like burgers, like nothing fancy. But, they had a great salad bar. And then they always had a dance floor. So I was out one night to dinner with a girlfriend of mine, and guys spinning, and I started talking to him. The guy's name is Kent Gano, and I was just talking about this the other night because it really was like when you're it's like Back to the Future with the Enchantment of the Sea dance.
Right.
That is the point in life that literally like things changed for me. Like I started BSing with the guy. I'm like, hey, I'm a radio DJ. I knew how to play songs in tight. I had no idea mix. I had no idea. Like my knowledge really was more of rock and roll. Boston, the Cars.
Right.
Motown knew pretty well, but I wasn't into disco or dance stuff. So this is like Rick James, Michael Jackson, Rick James, Madonna, that era. But that's I started getting knowledge about that. But so he introduced me to a guy that owned the company, and they just liked the fact that I wasn't afraid to be in front of a crowd and I was good on the mic. They didn't care that I didn't know how to mix. It was like taught me how to play, and I learned how to program music. And after doing it for a while, I did that. But to answer your question, when I was younger, I really did enjoy the clubs. But after I got on the radio on Kicks back in the 90s, which is on News 101 did a show, having my name announced all week long and then being on the radio, like people wanted me to do weddings. And then when when that changed, it just gave me a nice boost. And it was like, weddings pay, 10 times what you make at a club.
Absolutely.
The nice thing about the club is it's a live environment. They're all young people. But then when you start thinking about the financial thing, it's like, that's when I start doing. So, I like the club for the energy, but doing parties and weddings, I like it. I like I like them both, but it's nice to be part of somebody's wedding or event. This is a funny story. Did you know Chris Bolton? He was a pretty big DJ in Trenton back in the day. Worked the Electric Playground and a really DJ. Well, when I started my DJ company, he was my partner, and then he just he didn't want to deal. He didn't really want to do it anymore, So I kind of took it over. But his son got married 2 years ago, who was 28, 29 years old. He asked me to do his son's wedding, which I did, and I brought my son with me. He was like 30, And then through that, we got another wedding. It was another DJ of mine, Mike McLaughlin. So we just this past Saturday we just did that kid's wedding with my son. So it was like just like that thing being I'm a sentimental guy, and it was like the greatest feeling, like to be there and watching the kids of guys I knew like back in the day, and that they thought enough of me to do their kids' weddings. You know what I mean? And just being it was plus my son is freaking phenomenal. Like he was basically engineering the whole night. He's real good with everything. So I was doing the mic work and all, but as much as I like the clubs and I'd have to say like I just being older, and I just kind of like part of those type of events more at this point. The planning of it and so forth.
Right. I only did certain weddings. Like they would come to the bars and see me, and then they would ask, or it'd be a family member. Because for me, it was a pain in the neck because I was doing 6-7 nights a week in the bars. And I can only say, if you want me at your wedding, the wedding has to be over by 10 o'clock because I got to get back to the bar by 11. And sometimes I would have to pull equipment and, so I only did it for favors. But the bar was nice because you walk in, you hit the button, and you're off and going. The records are there. Everything's there. You're ready to go.
I had a weird wedding story, but I don't know if I have anything that's really memorable than, huh?
No, I said, go ahead.
No, well, the wedding, sad. It was a favor. It was a guy that worked for me. it was in a it wasn't in a nice venue. The guy, the poor girl. I mean, they were very young. The girl was she's about 8 months and about 3 weeks pregnant. This poor. I mean, she's like busting out. You know, the groom looked like Charles Manson. I'm telling you, it was the evilest looking guy. The wedding was reception was 30 minutes in. I don't even think I had anybody on the dance floor yet. And the guy was like, I see this commotion, and they're fighting with the groom. There's like the groom's in a fight with somebody, and they're pulling them apart. Next thing, like the cops are there, like instantly. Like I couldn't believe I got there. He goes now. The groom goes out a back door, and I'm watching. My van is there, where I loaded it in, and luckily it was a micro. But there was another on the other side. He pushes through the window of this van, and the cops basically arrested him at the wedding. Now he's done property damage. So that was like the craziest thing that has ever happened to me. Like the guy literally, and then he went. I heard that they got my friend that asked me to do that. He was like going back some things like that. Well, they got the marriage annulled. But insofar as club nights, I mean, I don't remember like anything spectacular happened. It's.
The one thing that I'll just throw an extra one with the wedding, I had to do my mom's friend's wedding, second marriage, and I thought it was going to be a good one. I got over there. I'm playing. They just wanted basically Motown, some 50s, oldies, keep it Sinatra,
Right.
stuff like that. I kept getting this one guy coming up to me. You going to play anything old? I said, what do you want? I says, I know Jacksons are a little new. What would you rather have? I got Smokey. I got this. How about Sinatra? How about, no, something old. I'm like, okay. And I looked at the dance floor all night. It was my mom and my stepfather dancing. I kept going to my mom, do me a favor. I'll throw the money back. Just get me out of here. I'd rather go to the bar to get abused. Anything I was playing, they didn't know, and it was all their music they wanted. Even the married couple wasn't.
Right.
But the best thing, here's the bar. I'm working at the Buffstone. We had the DJ booth in the corner, and it was up on a riser. And the corner of the bar was close to they can maybe get two people standing in back of them. So all of a sudden, I'm seeing this girl straddling this guy, and she's facing me. And I'm playing what the heck? Bon Jovi. Of course, at the Buffalo, you always had to get you give love a bad name or something. And all of a sudden I'm hearing something. I'm like, nah, can't be. Me being a disco boy, I went into my pile. I had was it the Donna Summer one with the moaning? I forget the name of the song. I slid it underneath.
You love to love you, baby.
Yeah. So you're hearing Bon Jovi, and then underneath you're, Tommy, the bartender comes. He goes, I go, we knew what was going on. And then all of a sudden, Tommy goes to the owner, to the old man. The old man walks around the corner, and he goes to the girl. Because she was a regular also. They went out for the night. She was always jeans and t-shirt. This time she had a short skirt on, and she was ready. And all I hear the old man going, if you don't knock this crap off, I'm starting a line in back of you. And I started with my DJ since he's the first one that saw you. And it was, everybody was like, oh my God. But nobody picked it up. I just saw it. And me being the production guy with the radio, and I says, I got to have some fun with this. Throwing the moments.
Where were you sitting at? You saw it? We're in a corner somewhere?
Yeah, it was at the Buffstone. They were at, like, how the old big oval bars are? It was like a racetrack. Yeah. They were sitting in the corner that was real close to right next to me, basically.
Yeah.
If I wanted to, I could throw water out to hose them down. It was like they were right there, but it was Dominique's. We caught the owners on the 18th hole in the sandbar. They were
really?
walking around, and
Richie?
the owner's wife. She's out there. Was they were doing something. It was in the sand pit,
Oh,
but it was like, yeah, Dominique's
wow.
was always like that. I'll get in trouble now. They'll all come after me. Yeah, find them upstairs in the bathroom,
No.
people and everything. It was like, man, I thought Buffstone was strange. I have a story that contains you. The first time we met, and you don't remember. When you were working at Electric Playground, I was just finally starting to learn how to DJ,
Right.
coming out of singer. My mom goes, I'm going to get you a job. She called you up and acted like my agent. And I went down, talked to you about doing MC. And you're like, well, you got to go out and get more experience. You don't have enough experience to do this.
I did.
But I came all the time. And one night, you guys had a drawing from Cooper. Remember Cooper and Son? Or it was the trike. They were giving away a trike at your place.
I remember that clearly. You won that?
We used to
Are you
come to you,
serious?
but yeah, I ended up sat there. My buddies are like, go ahead. I said, no, I'm not going to win. Wasted my time. And the bartender over there that, doing the sodas goes, go ahead, sign it in. We're sitting on the bleachers. This is before we were going to, me and my buddy was headed to the Granada. We used to go over there and I'm on the bleachers. All I hear is Dominic Santoro. I'm like, uh-oh. Yeah, won the trike.
That place was a cash cow. I mean, the guys that ran that, it was right at it was a perfect time because the drinking had dropped to 18. So we had spread the dances out. So like, the Friday night dance was for kids that like say, if it was like 30 to 17, then it was like 17 and above was the Saturday. Of course, everyone would want to get there. It was like underage, Saturday's a big night. And then we did the afternoon dance for little kids, like the 12 and
Right.
stuff like that. But I remember they got that trike and the guys that owned it. And I remember there was like 5 different guys that were all owners with that. And the guy tried to write, if you remember, the stage was like a platform. And then the
Right.
DJ booth was in the corner and the stairs went up and there was a dance floor and all. And this guy tried to go up the stairs with this trike and it came back on him and almost freaking crushed him. I mean, it didn't hurt him or anything like that, but I remember that. And then I thought I swear I thought I heard a story that the person that got it actually got hurt on that thing. So that's not that.
Never
that
wrote it. What almost happened
wrote.
was my buddy picked it up with me that night, like during the week. He was driving
Right.
it around in the parking lot, and he almost wiped out. And I was yelling at him. And it's funny because years before, his sister, they were driving mini bikes, and they had me being stupid. I stood in the middle with my back facing the motorcycles. She ran me over.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, this
Oh,
kid's
wow.
almost, we're still good friends and everything. And it was funny. But yeah, Donnie almost wiped out in the parking lot with the trike. And my other Bob Marsdale story, this is when we were talking the other day, and I says, oh my God, it was him. We're working at Dominique's. When you were there, I would always stay clear of you because you had that aura. I'm like, okay, I'll just let him do his thing.
You don't even know me. There's no aura.
No, I didn't know you, but it was the hype. Everybody talked about you. And this is like after I ended up did my thing and I was sort of the big guy around the town where I didn't have to bow down to anybody, but it was more respect. And the one kid that you mentioned the name, Billy Gray, kept telling me, yeah, stay away from him.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, I ended up having to do the lounge. And I think you were supposed to be working that night. Something happened where you were coming in late. I think it was you or another guy. You could verify this. I kept telling Richie, the owner, I says, he pulled me out of the lounge. He goes, do me a favor. I need you to fill in for an hour in the club. I says, no, I don't mix. That's one thing I never did. was mix. I was more of a party
Really?
drummer. Yeah, I was the only drummer I knew that couldn't play a drum set. My foot and hands won't get together. Same thing when I was mixing. I
Really?
couldn't uncoordinate it. I probably couldn't even do it with a Serato or whatever you call them, just hitting the button with the hands now. But anyway, Richie calls me, tells me, pull some records, and I went in. I knew what was going to happen. People started yelling and screaming and saying, "Get out of here." I said, "I can't mix." I said, I'll play your songs, but that's all you're going to get. And I kept telling Richie, get Billy in here. Because I knew Billy was a young DJ. And he always hung at the club and worked during the day, and he was a runner type things, but Richie never gave him a shot.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, he goes, "Yo, go back in the lounge. I'm going to put Billy in here." So Billy takes more of my records and he starts mixing. And next minute, no, he got that night. I think it was. I don't know if that was you.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Well, I know that he started. I know he started. Like he might have been paying me more money. And a lot of times I would have no heart.
Right.
Billy's my friend on Facebook. I don't know how it happened, but a lot of times, like guys, I got paid, which was if you made $200 at a club, that was huge money.
You're making money.
The going rate was like they want to give you $100. And like I like kind of kicked me off about clubs. It's like you realize how important the DJ is, and they want to short the guy. But it was always like, guys on the like, and they just didn't really have a concept of how hard it was, to do what you do. It's even like doing a wedding. It's like it's a lot behind the scenes. You can sit there. I remember my aunt telling me, making all that money spinning records. I mean, it's just knowing what to play and when to play it. But I think at that time I actually was moving. Like I live in Medford now, so I was probably doing the coastline here. And I was doing that for a while, and I was doing Club Atlantis and Ben Salem. I think it might have been after the fact I left there, which was that was a nice place doing the golf course, but like Club Atlantis was like really a pretty cool place to be.
Oh yeah.
It's like I don't know if you went out the pulsations, but the light show in there, like you had your own light guy, the booth was up in the ceiling, you had monitors up there. So it was like a pretty cool experience to be up there. I mean, it was always I had like the biggest night was Sunday night, believe it or not. And we might have talked about this. But it was like the Sunday night was people in the business night. So, Sunday nights were just a killer. I mean, there was 500 people there sometimes. It was insane.
Oh, they were the best because you worked with people that worked in the business, and you all knew each other in a sense. Like even if you didn't know each other, you respected each other. But like at Dominique's, a lot of you guys, you were the different one, but a lot of them didn't work the mic. And Richie used to. When he started knowing me, he goes, do the mic, and I used to do the lights when I was bouncing. And it was nice because I was up top on the elevation, so you could see the whole place. And then I was having fun while I was doing it also. And by that time, I was like, you gotta retire. Like your teen dancers, you don't even see them around anymore. Which is terrible,
You know what happened? I think that, like the guys I worked for, the liability on the teen dances. I was, when I was running that, like you had to be like a cop. It was like kids are coming there. You had underage drinking. Kids were like getting sloppy. They want to get in fights. It's like now I had cops working there, and it's like then it's like you don't want to have things in the paper that there's fights and there's kids drinking there. So you're like you're trying to like get kids. Listen, you made a mistake. I bring the kid in my office. You get two choices. It says either we call your parents and they come get you, or you go with the cops and they're going to call parents. So what choice? He goes, I have my cousin's show. My cousin will come. No, that's not. There isn't B. There's only A. There's only two choices. Not place A. So that got the challenge. And actually, after I left, I think that because the newness maybe wore off, they were a little bit more apt to let. Lied, and then I think things got in there later. I heard, I wasn't around, but
more fights.
It's
a
kids
tough can never. Yeah, they all want. No matter what it was, the teddy bear over electric playground, no matter what it was, it
Mhm.
always ended because the kids always fought. And it's funny because now I'm a special
Mhm.
ed teacher and I'm talking to the kids, in the high schools and everything, and they're like, they got the roller skating rink to go to, but nothing really much. They got to do
Mhm.
more house parties these days. That's just because you don't know how to behave. And it's the same thing with the nightclubs.
Yeah.
People don't know how to behave properly. They get drunk, they drink, and off they go to the races. They think they're braver than what they are. You're like in the mob. Like you want to get out, but they always pull you back, and then you're doing something else. I'm gonna let you tell what you're doing now. Also, with the still doing the DJing. Talked to you the other day. Oh, I'm done. I don't want to do it because I don't want that to interfere with my other career. And then, yeah, he's doing 2 nights the next couple of weeks at the club.
Yeah. Well, what happened was during the pandemic, I started I mean, nobody was going anywhere, so I started broadcasting from my living room, and I had my Pioneer set up, and like the next week I had lights behind me, and but I was going live on Facebook, and I have a lot of people that follow me, from comedy, and so a lot of people home, and next thing it's like I'm looking down, and there's like hundreds of people that are watching me. Like I didn't even conceive that it would, that would take off like that. But it was a problem because it kept getting interrupted. I didn't really have the sound right. It took me a couple weeks to get the sound right. But then whatever the algorithms were for Facebook, it was saying, "Oh, this Rick James song, it will cut me off. I have to come back on, and people have to find the link." But but then I did it maybe for 12 weeks. But then Johnny Rossi, um, from Teen Entertainment, which Tony Nini, who's like a legend, he started that company. John's his
Right.
nephew, so he was my friend on Facebook, and I was always very fond of Tony Nini. He was like to me, he was like the freaking king of Trenton. I mean, he just like, we would leave the elect playground. We would go to Brothers or where he was, and actually, when I met my wife, I mean, it was like I think one of the first times I answered, Tony was the DJ. So I used to message him before he was sick, and I would
Right.
message him and everything. But anyway, so I stayed in touch with Johnny, and I guess Johnny was watching me one of these nights. He was doing his own thing too,
Right.
and he made a comment like, "I'm opening up this club. I'd like you to come, come." And I'm like, "Okay." And then I was ready to kind of do it, and then the pandemic hit. Like it just like not that it hit, but it got so much worse than what he would. So the clubs are down and all, but we stayed in touch. He actually came to my house, and I mean, I have I don't know, 30, 40 crates of records that, I'm thinking like I'm going to spin one day, and I never
Right.
have because everything's on a computer. But he came and he took a bunch of stuff for the club, So he's like, just give me some dates. He's going to like put guys in, like, Frank Olivetti's a guy that's been around forever. He's going to be there.
Right.
Andy Bradley, I saw the other night. Was a young guy. I think his name was Mike. And there was another guy, big dude. I can't remember his name, but he was funny. But they wanted to rotate us all in. So I'm like, you know what? Yeah. I mean, if I do that, but it's kind of hard to get. Like, I just happen to have these 2 Saturday nights off because there hasn't been any weddings, and then there's been no comedy bookings. So I'm like,
Right.
I'll do them. So it really is. I mean, hey man, the fact that I've made a living out of being a DJ, like I feel like I feel like I'm stealing money. To be honest with you, it's like that I've been able to and to teach my kids, and that they like doing it. I mean, my son was a pretty big when he was in college down in Tampa. I mean, he's working
Right.
like some legit clubs down there, on the beach, and so the fact that they liked it and all, but I'm looking forward to being there. I mean, I threw it up on my Facebook page, and maybe some people come out, but I think it'd be pretty cool. But the funny thing is that the room is right behind where the electric playground used to be, which is now a Wendy's. So
Yeah.
so that was like kind of weird. Like the day he's like, direction, I'm like, holy crap, I'm right behind the playground.
Back where I started from back in the day. Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
How did you get into from being a DJ? Yes, we are MCs. We have to entertain the crowd, but how did you make the jump everybody asked me to do it, and I'm more of a
You
storyteller if
know,
I had to do that.
yeah, I'm like kind of a storyteller, like myself, but I put like zingers in my, you know, it's just like growing up, like being able to impersonate people. Like I was like the class clown in high school. Uh,
Right.
you know, and you know, I break like the family dinners. I'd break up they bring me in and I would do 10 minutes, you know, not even know that what I was doing, you know. And then, you know, my wife actually put me in a comedy contest back in like 2000, it was 2008. And I just wrote a couple of things, like just stories that had happened. And a bunch of people came, you know, a bunch of my friends came and the place was packed. And it's like the first time out, there was maybe 10 people in this contest. And I like it just, the first, like, I was nervous. I mean, because it's not like DJing, kind of like DJing, but not DJ. I mean, you got 200 people focused on you, and it's like now you got to try to make them laugh like they're strangers to get them to relate to you. But I don't know what happened. But like one of the first things I said, the whole room broke up, and I completely relaxed. And I kind of did my
Right.
thing, and somebody saw me, and they're like, you should go down to Helium in Philadelphia, which is like the premier comedy club."
Right.
And so I went there. And then I met this friend who's like a very close friend of mine now. His name is Brad Trackman. I took his comedy class and he saw something in me and really like kind of taught me there's just like DJing, you know, you can go and play
Right.
records just like comedy. There's art to do it. There's a way to set up. There's a way to kind of handle it. And this guy just really just treated me so well and just really took me under his wing. And then when I started getting better, he like, you know, I want you to see, you know, I want you to see Bob. So I started working in the comedy clubs. You know, I got
Right.
auditioned, but then they liked the fact that I kind of was a natural MC. So I MC'd a lot of events in South Jersey and Philly. And in the comedy world, being an MC is like it's a very important job. It's not the most glamorous job. You're not the headline, but being
Right.
able to like, get into a room, get the room started, and then go and then kind of and then bring the other acts out and keep things going, calm people down that may be drunk, whatever. And I got to meet, a lot of, like, Big Daddy Graham. I mean, Joe Conklin, and all that. And then these guys
Right.
are like, hey, I want you to row with me, and it just kind of perpetuated itself over the last 10 years. So, but so I do a lot more comedy than I probably do DJing these days. I mean, it doesn't pay as much as being a comedian, believe. Being a
No.
DJ pays better than being a comedian, but I like doing it, so.
Here's a question for you. Since you're more of a dance guy, also you do your mobile stuff,
Right.
but what do you feel? I always have the debate. A buddy of mine that worked in the field, and he didn't. When I explained it, he finally says, "Yeah, I think you are right. The party jock versus the dance guy, the mixer. Who do you think?
Mhm.
What's the harder part? Because the party jock, you got
Well,
to know
I
your
think
rock. You got to know around 50 different, types of music. And when you're playing, all you got to do is keep these people on the dance floor, basically. Throw a slow song, then bring them back on again. If you're doing the mixing,
yeah.
with the
Well,
dance music.
I mean, I've done both. I mean, doing the weddings. I mean, I know how to mix rock and roll. I mean, like I have some in my head that I've been doing. Like I've
Right.
learned for years. Like I know when I'm gonna like, and I'm like good at banging a song and whatever. But probably, I think it's harder like being a party guy, wedding guy, because you have a very diverse crowd. If I walked in when I walk into Decades on Saturday, I have an idea
Right.
what I'm going to do. Right? I have an idea what the program is like 70s, 80s, 90s. I mean, certainly I'm going to have to look at the crowd, and if I see the crowd and they're all like, they're all in their 60s, I might start off with something different. I might start off with more like a
Right.
disco era than doing more stuff in the 90s, whatever. But so you have to read the crowd. But being able to do both of being a party jock and knowing how to play rock and roll, or how to knowing when to play Twist and Shout or like Rare Earth Get Ready or Dance to the Music from Sly and the Family
Right.
Stone, then cut over to with Disco Inferno, or like seeing people that are maybe in their 60s or 70s that might like that. knowing how to read a crowd, I think that's a little bit harder. Some guys get into, you're in a club and you can, I've been in places where you can set your watch by, by what song the guy's going to play. He's going to play the same song at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, because they mix it. It's not taking into account, what's happening in front of you. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why I don't like the playlist. I always see now, like, hey, you got to have this in your playlist. What happened about just going there and doing it? Like everybody, like with all the new equipment, you could do a lot of pre-programmed stuff. Like back in the day, we used to call it if it's live or Memorex. And when you saw the reel-to-reel players in the back of the DJ booth going, you knew that it was all pre-recorded. Because my buddy lived in North Jersey, and they used to do it all the time. It was funny because the DJ booth was on the second level, but you always saw the reel-to-reel. You saw the little shiny going through with the lights. They're like, oh,
right.
I could have brought one of my cassettes over and throw it in. I want to hear a jive.
Yeah.
That's why I love it now. Like there's a group that New Energy or something, they do freestyle. And it's nice when they screw up. Even though they're working with the digital. I'm like, yes. Now I know I got a real DJ there, because you kind of miss that. I don't know if you hear the guy in the back of me. He wants to contribute in the conversation too. He thinks he knows everything. But they're cleaning their precious pool in the outside. It's like Cocoon. You would love this. It's a 5-foot pool. And you get all these seniors, 70 years old, standing in the pool because it's like 3 to 5 feet. And my neighbor, I don't know if you remember the group Instant Funk. Got your mind made up, come on.
Yeah,
Kim lives upstairs. Kim comes over and I'm like, hey, Kim, it's Cocoon. He goes, I got to get out of here. He goes, but later on, he's like, hey, you're right. Because that's all it was and then you got, depending on the weather, you get the smoke coming up because it's a heated pool. It looked just like Cocoon. That's why anytime I walk by there, I see the people. I'm like, hey, Cocoon. Some of them get the reference, some don't. See, that can be funny sometimes. I never listened to Howard Stern, but they always said, hey, you ever listen to Stern? You sound like Stern. Then I had to listen to Stern. It was on the order of how Stern was, ripping the crap out of people. And they used to come in the bar to hear that. Today, I don't even think that would go on the comedy circuit, though. You know how some of your comedians would just rip the heck out of some of your, the people listening. I think it's too soft these days.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a certain style of like, obviously like Don Rickles was a guy. I don't really rip. Yeah. Pat, I don't rip. Actually, the guy's name is escaping me, but he was on Stern for years. I mean, I've worked with this guy a million times.
Jackie?
I'm just forgetting his name. Not Jackie. I worked with Jackie at. I opened for him at Parks Casino. That was a pretty cool moment. It was pretty cool. But I can't remember. Like, I don't know why it'll come to me as soon as we're done this thing. But like kind of like I don't go after a guy. Like if a guy's asking for it, then I'm going to give it to him. Like if a guy's being a little obnoxious or whatever. But it kind of literally like it's like kind of like a heckling thing. Like it really like a lot of times when you're doing comedy, there's practice your set, and then it's just like a DJ set, but then you get tired of playing this you doing this bit, put another bit in there. I mean, you try something new, but you kind of like if you're going to do something new and you're not sure if it's going to work, you kind of cradle it between two songs that are absolutely going to keep the floor going. If I'm going to play this, I got this to back it up because I'm gonna, you know what I mean. If I lose the floor, I'm going to this. Same thing with comedy. I got this thing that's going to hit them, but I don't really like getting into a thing with the audience because it kind of, sometimes it works. It's magic, but I'd rather stick where I'm at. Then you get guys. I mean, I had guys who were going to get up and fight the freaking comedian. Not me, but like one of the guys who was on the show with me one time. It's over Philly.
I had beer bottles thrown at me a couple times. Where it was funny where the owner. And more at the Sportsman pub, believe it or not. I ended up, the owner used to have to walk me out with his gun some nights. And I says, that's nice. I says, even though I live down the street, are you going to come down there and watch me go from my car to the house? He goes, no, I'm just making sure you walk out of my bar safe. I'm like, thank you.
Yeah.
If you had any advice for anybody that was breaking into like comedy or DJing, besides don't do it, what would you, your years of wisdom?
I mean, the things we were talking about earlier, it's a lot easier to get into the DJ business now because before it was a pretty big investment, right? I mean, just the music itself. I mean, you buy a 12-inch, it was $4 or $5 a 12-inch. Now you could, you basically could rip stuff off of which I don't like to do because of the quality. But
Right.
You get files and you get a crappy player really for just that will do the job. It's not going to sound great for maybe $300-400. I would just say, go out with somebody, hook with somebody that kind of knows what they're doing and kind of learn the ropes. Like not instead
Right.
of going out and maybe somebody like yourself, you want to, hey, I want to learn the business or like as an example, my son, is 24 years old. He's been to, he's probably been at 50 or 60 weddings, but like I wouldn't let him do a wedding. He could,
Right.
I could tell him what to play, but he's too nervous to like I wouldn't want to cut him loose and do what he's pretty close to doing it, but like just kind of learn the mechanics, learn how to do,
Right.
like if a new guy, hey, I'm gonna let you do the cocktail hour. You're not gonna, you're not gonna have to mix anything. This is what I want you to get the mechanics down, then teach them how to mix. But
Right.
like, and insofar as comedy, it's kind of like with anybody you talk to has been doing comedy for a while. It's stage time. Just get on stage. It doesn't matter if it's an open mic. A lot of times when you're starting out, you're only doing open mic. So a lot of times bars will run those on like a Monday night or Tuesday when no one's in there. So a lot of people come in and try to learn the business. So they're going to come and they're going to drink. So there may be 15, 20 people there and they're practicing. Right. They're doing they're writing jokes during the week and they're trying to do it in 10 minutes. Like I don't do a lot of open mics now, but like when I came off of COVID, I was at a restaurant down in Waretown, and one of my buddies runs an open mic, and I'm like, hey, I had this bit that I want to work on. Do you mind if I come down? And he was like more than happy for me to come down,
Right.
And I did 10 minutes, but it was like 10 minutes that I needed to kind of get just kind of get, any kind of jitters that I would have had walk away and not having done a show in 7 months. You know what I mean? So that's what I say. Anybody wants to do that, there's a lot of good comedy classes out there. Like my friend Brad's at the Punchline. My other friend Vince Valentine teaches at a college, Rowan College down the Blackwood area. There's a guy Chip Chantry that he teaches over at Helium. He's a very talented guy.
Right.
So kind of if you're into doing that, it kind of gets you kind of do like 5 minutes and kind of get your feet under you a little bit, and then you're in a very what they'll do is you'll do that for like 7 or 8 weeks, and then at the end of that you'll do a show on a Saturday afternoon, and everybody invites their friends. It's a very warm crowd. They're all they're going to cheer the guys on, and it's a nice experience. Like even if you never did it again, it's a pretty cool thing to do. If you were a salesperson or had some type of job where you needed to be in front of people, just to get over that fear. I mean, public speaking is like one of the biggest fears, let alone stand up and telling jokes to a room of 100 people. So I don't know. Just keep doing it. If you want to do it, go out and do it. Figure out a way to do it.
Moral of the story: you're never too old. I'll leave you with this one.
No.
There's a producer, Martina Buddy. She's German, and
Right.
I got a chance to talk to her. We text back and forth and everything, and she shoots me. She goes, "I started doing my DJ career when I was 50. Now she's 55. She has her own record label. She does a lot of I don't know if you blocking Brown and Crown. I call them the law firm. They do a lot of good remixes of the 70s, 80s, and 90s. I mean, they make the song sound like, damn it, why weren't they that like this back in the day when I was playing it? But she's incredible. Right. She does I'll send you some of her stuff so you can check it out. But I mean, it's proof.
Yeah, I'd love to listen to it.
And it's actually what I got reborn with the DJ Chronicles. I ended up hearing the music, thinking it was terrible. I said, let's go back to the roots. And I always had a good ear of picking music. And that's what I'm doing. I'm playing all new music on the YouTube, and we got the website. I don't know if you checked out the website yet. If you're the radio junkie, you like the air checks. I have tons of air checks on there and a lot of other things. So and that's why I said give the advice. And that's one part I have on there. All the so-called experts helping guys that want to do YouTube and this and that. Because when I worked at the Bubstone, I had around 8 guys. They were all customers. I turned them into DJs. Yes, they weren't mic guys, but they knew music and they kept the house packed because they knew how to do it. And that's the biggest thing. If you want to become a DJ, you got to end up being a groupie sometimes. Quick story with Tony Nini. Nini wanted me to work for him. We used to butt heads. It's like, you didn't want to know me when I was nobody. Now I'm somebody. I don't want to know you. We always had mutual respect. And he says, is it okay if I bring my rock guy in and sit down and watch you? I said, yeah. Everybody thought I was nuts. And I says, there's only one me. I says, so whatever he sees, good luck if he could pull it off. Because I used to do it like with you, blend in, and plus you know the music, how to bring people up and down. And he went back to Tony. He goes, you can't copy him. He goes, he was all over the board. He had the crowd going and everything else. And Tony called me back and gave me the compliment. He says, that's why I want you to work. I says, for me. I says, if you want me to give up everything, you better give me more money then. Because he wanted to pay me less than what I was already making and make me in charge. And I always joke around with Rossi about that. And it's funny, I don't know if you know, we're related through marriage now. Me and John. He married my cousin.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I says, I could imagine if me and Tony were together on Family. But no, we had a mutual respect in the business.
When we did the Electric Playground, it was like he had a place called the Hot Box, right? Was that the name of it? He was running the team dance,
right?
But he had a team. But we brought him in to DJ because I mean, really, he was the top DJ in Trenton. I mean, back in that time, he's the first guy I ever heard. He was good on the mic and a very distinctive voice, But he was the first guy I ever heard do that. You can do it on an electronic, like on a player, mark or whatever. But he did that fade where he'd have two of the same 12 inches going at the same time, and the other one was like a millisecond behind you. You get that echo,
right?
Like he's the first guy I ever saw do that. It was pretty cool. Like and that's something like I knew how to mix, but like I remember that technique and learning that. But you said something like, you like he could teach old guy new tricks. Something like I can still mix pretty good, but like insofar as like maybe doing a remix or getting on a computer, like I don't really know how to do that. That's something I'd like to learn how to do. And just do like mashups and stuff because I got out of doing the clubs to do the mobile work. But I know I'm decent with a computer, but I'd like to. That's something I want to try to maybe check out and do one of these days. Like my sons could probably do it and shoot, but there's a lot of new stuff out there that's pretty cool.
Polo. He's from Italy. He does a lot of mashups, and the mashups he does is incredible. He does all video.
Yeah.
And the way they work together, and he's not shoehorning either. It sounds like a regular song when he's done with it. And I admire somebody like that. They could put it together. You're putting heavy metal with Mariah Carey, or they had the one that was what's his name, Marilyn Manson with Mariah Carey. All I want for Christmas is the beautiful people. And you're like, what? But the song works the way it went together. And by the way, it's on DJChronicles.net. Go check it out.
Okay.
I was scared of you when I was younger. Now we're gonna go have a beer probably in another couple of weeks.
Yeah, yeah.
But I
This is all I
appreciate you
drink.
stopping it.
Like,
I got the water too. I love it when you go to the doctors. They go, "Do you drink?" Maybe one beer a year. That's for the
yeah,
birthday if I do that. And I could never
yeah.
drink. I used to hate it. Now, back in the day, did you used to drink while you worked doing the clubs?
That was the office. I mean, there's certainly times, hey, I want to buy the DJ a shot, and there's times I did that. Literally one drink would throw my timing off. So I made practice never to do it. So
I used to get yelled at
I'm a
the
lightweight.
Buffstone. I would get yelled at the Buffstone. One night, the old man comes up with a bucket. I'm like, "What do you want with this?" He goes, "You're wasting a lot of money." I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Everybody wants to buy you a drink. You tell them you're not drinking. That's money out of my pocket." He starts screaming at me like a lunatic. He goes, "Here's the effing bucket. Every time they buy you a drink, you take the drink, you pour it in the bucket, end of the story." I'm like, okay. But then I used to hate taking anything from a customer because they buy you a drink, they give you $1, they think they own you for the rest of the night. And I used to throw the money back at them. It's like, I'm not a jukebox. I'm a human being. You put quarters in the jukebox, that's it after your first song.
Yeah.
Same thing here. That's why I would never take money.
I gave you $20. I gave you 20. I want to hear the Macarena again.
Or
no.
Here's a good one though. The guy comes up to the booth. He goes, "Yeah. Well, what do you want to hear?" I'm like, or they'll do, "You got something good?" "Yeah, I just played their big hit last 2 songs ago. I'll play it a little bit later." "Well, which one you did?" "Something good." And they're like, "You gonna play anything good tonight?" I'm like, "Damn, I forgot their records this week." They're, it's like, go back to your bedroom and spin some records. Yeah.
That was
like go back to the bedroom.
When are you going to play something good? I think, turn around, see that dance floor? Those 200 people think this is good.
My biggest compliment used to be, "Yo, you had a great night tonight. You didn't play no request, did you?" I said, "Hell no." They used to know when I didn't play request and then when I played request because they'd be almost the same stuff.
Yeah.
If not the same song, it'd be the same groups. And I used to, the nights that I didn't get the request, I stood away from some of the same stuff. Or I always looked at it this way. They put 10 songs on this album for a reason. With the dance music, you got the same song on both sides of the album. So, you're stuck with the mix. But I mean, at least with me, I had the flexibility, especially when you're playing 6 nights a week, it gets boring after a while. Because you got to you try to be fresh every night. But hey, I wouldn't pass it up, but I'm sure you're still living it, so you're not passing it up. And I think I'm like I said before, I made that comment about the mob. Mr. Rossi's like niching at me. So he's trying to drive me back in on behind the scenes thing. Hopefully it works out and then you'll know about it in a couple of weeks. But once again, I'd like to thank you for stopping in, saying you're, giving us the insight on the Bob Marsdale story. I appreciate it. And like I said, I'd like to do it again. There's a lot more we can, 2 old guys can talk about. But I think the Zoom's going to say bye-bye soon. So at this point, have a good one, and I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Take care.
The dance floor is now open.